Follow the steps. That is a really important message. Last week, podcast number 23 was an interview with Shawn, and it's the most listened podcast that I've done to date. It was a case study of how Shawn went from a negative to a positive net worth in about a year. And to think that his process was an easy process would be a mistake. The process was simple. He followed the steps of QLA that Dan Peña created more than 26 years ago now. But he had an awful lot of obstacles along the way. He basically had no money. He didn't have a business track record. In fact, his track record previously was in some failed businesses. But he had a good idea, and he was committed to following the steps. He taught himself that lesson a couple times along the way where when we were working together, he wanted to jump some steps. But he stayed true to it. He absolutely focused on a killer board, which he did. He ended up with a chairman who was way out of his comfort zone. Basically, as Shawn describes it, he's a rock star in the industry. And what was really important about that was that gave him, Shawn, instant credibility. People would look at him and say, well, if you've assembled this board, there must be something we should listen to here. So by transference, their track record gave him credibility. That made the whole process of getting professionals, accountants and lawyers, much easier. Financial institutions paid attention to that. And yes, even acquisitions paid attention to his board and said, oh, this is an opportunity I better listen to. So most people make the mistake of not following the steps and deciding, I don't need a dream team, I don't need professionals, accountants and lawyers, I can finance it somehow on my own. So they go tie up a deal. They don't know really how to structure a deal. They have no idea how to finance the deal. And then often I get a phone call, which is something like, Bruce, I've got a deal. I need some help. And can you finance it within a week or help me finance it in a week? And I always say the same thing. The answer is no. If you haven't followed the steps, the odds of you being successful are extremely small. And most of the time, you haven't done the right due diligence. You don't know how you're going to finance it. And the whole thing comes crashing down around you. So the key takeaway from Shawn's was follow the steps, get a good deal. And by saying get a good deal, I mean take a look at an industry and decide what you're going to do first. That's hard. But better, different, not so hard. And when you have a new twist on an industry that you want to consolidate, you'll find that attracting dream team members, professionals, institutions that could finance a deal, that whole process is much, much easier. So how do you know what the steps are and how do you learn them? Well, there's a few ways. One, you could go to Dan's Castle seminar, which I always say is the gold standard, but that is full in 2019. Dan has a waiting list, and he has no plans for a 2020 Castle seminar schedule at this point. That can certainly change, but at this point, there's none scheduled. Dan is doing a TED Talk. He told me the other day that he got permission to do 3 hours instead of the 18 minutes. So absolutely look for that. You could also pour through Dan's website and my website. There's tons of free content. But a lot of people have said that they want to find a quicker way to do that than pouring through that information. You could enter into a mentoring relationship with me, but like Dan's situation, I've taken on a lot of clients recently, and I don't want to take on additional clients and end up hurting the service that I give to the current client. So I put a moratorium on that. That will change in time, but at this point, I'm not adding new clients. But my marketing person some time ago said, not everybody can afford one-on-one mentoring with you, Bruce. I get that, and asked me to create a course. And I said, I'm not crazy about creating a course that dumps you into a Facebook group and you talk to a young person usually, who's never done any of this, but has been taught to coach. That just doesn't seem right to me. So I told him I would create a course, which is a step-by-step. It's 9 videos with the steps. There's templates and downloads, but I would only do that under the condition that at the end of somebody watching that course and all those videos, that I did a 1-hour Zoom call with them. And basically in that, usually I split that into 2 30-minute calls, but in that I would end up making sure that they were off on the right foot and knew how to do it. So that I did. I asked him how we should price it. He said, price it accordingly, pretty affordably. I said, okay. I said, anything else? He said, yeah, do a payment plan if they can't purchase it in one payment. I did that. I asked him if there was anything else. He said, yes, give a 30-day money-back guarantee. So I did that. So I think the only risk, candidly, is on me. I think it's all there. There's not a hard luck story in it. It's just, here's what to do, here's how to do it. So you can take a look on my website for that course. I was also recently asked to do a video series on the 10 objections that I've seen in trying to assemble a board, and I put together a small course on that as well that might be helpful to you. So that is how I think you follow the steps. I'm not going to guarantee you that you're going to have the same results as Shawn. He was persistent. He worked it very, very hard. But as I've said a lot of times, the steps are simple, and they really are in QLA. But simple is not the same as easy. But I think if you follow the steps, have a good idea, are persistent and consistent in working that, and don't quit, I think the odds are that you will meet with a amount of success that you probably don't envision at this point. And I'd encourage you to do that. Okay, I hope that helps. Remember, go back and listen to that podcast number 23 with Shawn, that interview. It's extremely helpful. The feedback has been fantastic, and there's tons of lessons and takeaways there. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments or ideas for future episodes, please email bruce@brucewhipple.com. And if you're not already on our mailing list, head over to brucewhipple.com and sign up and grab any of the free reports. That'll put you on the mailing list. There is a lot of free information you can use to acquire already profitable businesses. This is Bruce Whipple. Thanks for listening to the Business Acquisition Podcast. And remember, you miss 100% of the opportunities you fail to take. And procrastination truly is the thief of time. So do something today, please. Your future self will be proud of you.